Another day, another story. The human is a product of the environment, from the moment they emerge into life, and beyond the end of this life. The environment is what determines the cosmic influences on humans when they enter life. Subjected to the gravitational and magnetic forces prevailing in that place. The environment shapes the human conscience, defining their physical nature based on the type of available food and prevailing weather conditions. However, humans are also capable of creating an image of the place they live in. Envisioning distant places and times, carrying their dearest dreams and most beautiful aspirations, as well as their harshest nightmares that they fear. We will present to you some of the most intriguing places that have sparked human curiosity throughout generations. We will begin with the lost continent of Atlantis. Extensively described by the great philosopher Plato, who portrayed it as his virtuous city. He left it for those who came after him to search for the ruins of that continent and its civilization, which is said to be the source of various civilizations in the world. As usual, they differed in determining its location and time. Some insist that its center is in the Atlantic Ocean, which bears its name. Others seek to prove that it existed in the Pacific Ocean on the second side of the American continent. On the island of Crete, many remarkable places exist. Sites with massive stones arranged precisely in the British Isles, and sites with giant drawings visible only from space. There's also the mystery of the strange explosion that occurred in Siberia, approaching the power of an atomic bomb. Then there's the beautiful dream of the paradise nestled at the peaks of the Himalayas. Another virtuous city embodying the hopes of humans in a society that is better, more honorable, and more intelligent. As for the nightmare among those dreams, it materializes in the legend of the Bermuda Triangle in the Atlantic Ocean, a cosmic graveyard that swallows passing planes and ships. Many of these wonders remain a secret closed to humanity, provoking active minds to try to understand them and place them in the logical context of human culture. The search and exploration for them continue, hoping to comprehend the mysteries of the mysterious kingdom of Atlantis. These remarkable places, however, are the most contentious regarding their reality. Atlantis is not a small village or an abandoned city. It is an entire continent that preceded all known civilizations. Thousands of books and studies have been written about it over the centuries. Some envision it as a historical image of the virtuous city, while others see it as a large illusion created by humans to compensate for the harsh reality they live in. The great philosopher Plato extensively wrote about it, considering it the origin of civilizations that arose in the West and the East. Edgar Cayce, a man with extraordinary abilities, delved into describing his vision of it, captivating thousands of scientists and researchers. Humans have debated its historical location in the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, or even in the Mediterranean Sea. It is the stable continent of Atlantis, settled at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The Greeks relied heavily on the myth of Atlas to explain the stability of the Earth in the midst of the heavens. When the great philosopher Plato presented his vision of the reality of the continent of Atlantis, he said that Atlas, the owner of the myth, was the first king of the continent of Atlantis, and it was named after him. Among all the mysteries of the world that humans have not reached an explanation for, Atlantis remains the greats. In short, the legends speak of the existence of a massive continent that once lay in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, between the African and American continents, boasting a great civilization surpassing all known human civilizations. According to the stories, this continent disappeared suddenly, sinking into the ocean and leaving no trace of its existence. Some view Atlantis as a symbol of humanity's dream of a golden age. Today, researchers and adventurers eagerly seek any remaining evidence or clues of the lost, great continent. They rely on advanced scientific methods in the hope of discovering the continent that is said to have submerged 11,600 years ago. The question remains: was Atlantis a reality, or merely a human-made illusion or wishful thinking? Described as either Atlantis or paradise, researchers studying the lost continent agree that it was comparable to a lush paradise with abundant greenery and fruit growing in its fertile soil. Fragrant flowers and beneficial herbs flourished amid beautiful forests covering its numerous mountains. Both domesticated and wild animals grazed in its splendid plains and forests, quenching their thirst from its rivers and lakes. Beneath its soil, freshwater rivers flowed, utilized for agriculture, providing the inhabitants with cold and hot water fountains. Atlantis was rich in precious metals, making its people wealthier than those who came before or after them. Skilled engineers, they developed an extensive and complex system of canals and bridges, connecting various parts of their city, the capital, and the sea, as well as agricultural lands. They had ports and docks where their fleet engaged in trade with distant lands. Legend further suggests that the people of Atlantis had everything they desired for their comfort and happiness. They were kind, wise, and unaffected by their immense wealth, prioritizing virtue above all else. Some myths state that they not only governed their rich and bountiful land but also waged wars on others for reasons unknown. I can't help but feel that the ancient history of Atlantis is somehow contemporary to the United States, or a prophecy that America should take heed of. Their massive armies surged through the Strait of Gibraltar into the countries of the Mediterranean, conquering vast areas from the north. The armies of Atlantis attacked Athens and Egypt, but the Athenian army successfully repelled them, forcing them to retreat beyond the Strait of Gibraltar. just as the lands of the Mediterranean were beginning to celebrate their victory over the armies of Atlantis. A catastrophe occurred that swiftly brought the continent to its demise, sinking it to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The legend continues, suggesting that there might have been a few survivors who described the disaster. Plato and the myth of Atlantis. The philosopher Plato, renowned in ancient Greek history, first documented the story of Atlantis around 355 BCE in two of his famous dialogues. Despite Plato's claim that he received the story of the lost continent from ancient Egyptian manuscripts, experts have confirmed the absence of such manuscripts in the ancient Egyptian records. No one had written about Atlantis before Plato, and every subsequent book or article relied on Plato's narrative. Known for his storytelling talent, Plato sought to embed his philosophical ideas within realistic stories, incorporating some known characters. The fact that his narrative remained popular for over 2,300 years attests to the storytelling prowess he possessed. Plato's tale inspired numerous explorers and adventurers to attempt to reach the lost continent. Even without relying on Plato's story, the quest for answers to these mysteries led some to consider the existence of the missing link between continents. A land bridge inhabited by an extremely advanced civilization in ancient history. Some believed in the theory of continental drift, suggesting that continents were originally connected and later drifted apart as the Earth expanded, creating oceans between them. This theory might offer an explanation for identical flora, fauna, and mineral resources on continents that were not connected by land or a means of passage in ancient times. Although Plato placed Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean in his narrative, and subsequent geographers and mapmakers followed suit, enthusiasts and scholars of the lost continent idea have, since then, surveyed the globe to find a more convincing location. Strangely, selected locations were not always in the oceans. They pinpointed the location of the Kingdom of Atlantis in various places, at different times, including the Pacific Ocean, the North Sea, the African desert, Sweden, southern Spain, Palestine, Cyprus, Crete, the West Indies, Peru, and even England visited by some. And individuals with special abilities also, from time to time, in the absence of material evidence on the continent of Atlantis, those with special mental abilities have been preoccupied over the centuries trying to discover new information based on the unique capabilities. They believe that it is possible to access the past for those with special abilities, who can harmonize with that past and experience ancient events through visual revelation. Through this, new vibrant descriptions of life in Atlantis have emerged. Some have resorted to a set of additions to what Plato said, while others have presented astonishing and incredible descriptions that are difficult for those who have not succeeded in harmonizing with ancient times to reach. In 1890, the Englishman with supernatural abilities, W. Scott Elliot, relied on his telepathic abilities to claim that Atlantis occupied what we now know as the Atlantic Ocean a million years ago. According to his account, it was inhabited by warrior tribes, including the Romoles tribe, that included black aboriginals, each measuring between 10 and 12 feet tall. The ruling class was from the Toltecs tribe, and despite not exceeding 8 feet in height, they enslaved the members of the Tol tribe. Scott Elliot states that 200,000 years ago, groups from the Toltecs tribe migrated to Egypt and Mexico, and some of them visited England. The rulers of Atlantis practiced black magic. Hence, they suffered greatly from disasters such as earthquakes and floods. Only those who migrated from Atlantis before these calamities occurred survived. One of the individuals with special abilities who contributed to the literature of the continent of Atlantis was the American Edgar Cayce, who passed away in 1945. He was known as the Sleeping Prophet, due to his ability to access information, bring about changes, and succeed in what is referred to as spiritual healing while in a state closer to sleep. Cayce, in a deep meditative state, could narrate thousands of extraordinary conversations related to his clients and their past lives through reincarnation. According to Cayce, some of his clients lived in ancient times in Atlantis, and through the descriptions of that distant life, he added many fascinating details about the great civilization that vanished. These details included the use of laser beams by the people of Atlantis, as described by Cayce in 1942, before modern science discovered and developed them by several years. The concept presented by Edgar Cayce through his various writings about the continent of Atlantis is based on the idea that the people of Atlantis had reached a level of technological advancement similar to ours. Their tragic end, according to Cayce, was due to their developments in the field of immense energy, likely nuclear energy. Many people ridiculed Cayce's statements and criticized the story he adopted from Plato, but it seems that individuals with special mental abilities will have the final say. They say that the Earth is entering a phase of major upheavals, and as a result, large parts of Atlantis will reappear above sea level. In 1940, Cayce predicted that these changes would begin between 1968 and 1969. With the western sector of Atlantis rising above the ocean near the Bahamas. Strangely enough, in 1968, several underwater formations, including what appears to be collapsed buildings, were observed near the shores of Bimini in the Bahamas. Followers of Cayce believe that what was observed validates Cayce's prophecy and that many more significant discoveries will unfold in the following decades.